Welcome to a replay analysis. This one's fucked up. Ninja Doggy. I know it says my name up there, but don't even pay attention to it. Pretend it's not me. Okay? Let me tell you guys what happened. Ninja Doggy is a Masters player. My Terran, to be fair, is also Masters. And Ninja Doggy, I gave him the veto just because it's what I do, you know. I'm a nice guy. I give the veto because my account says I'm GM. It's not my Terran. It's really my Zerg, right? But I gave him a veto, and he chose to veto the ability to drop for Terran. So I couldn't use Medivacs to drop. I could still make them to heal, but we couldn't use them to drop. Okay? So don't get on my ass when I lose this game. But now, let's talk about Ninja Doggy. Let's talk about how he can improve his gameplay, okay? Also, I can't believe you wanted this replay analysis, Ninja Doggy, because you were the one who argued with me about when to build gas. So you're probably not going to like my analysis. Well, we'll see what happens. You're going Nexus before gas. I don't like it one bit. You know what? I'm dead serious. I'm dead serious. I wish I did this now, because look at how look at your texting, your little smug face in the chat. You know what I should have done? I should have fucking proxy T-Rex Reapered you as an opener. Hey, look at you, you're looking for it. Okay, well, we got a really greedy Nexus. We got a core going down. Got a second gas going down. When the SCV comes back like that, you did the right thing by having your probe chase my SCV, because the most annoying thing for Protoss every fucking time is when the SCV gets like behind the mineral line and just builds a bunker. That definitely sucks for Protoss. So we were hoping. I was doing RNGesus, crossing my fingers, and he didn't answer my prayers because he kept popping the SCV out on the side of the probe until the probe was like literally on life support. RNGesus was not good to us today. Okay, we're going Sentry first. This build is very peculiar. I do honestly think that this build, on paper, should die to Proxy Reaper. I do think that. Because the Reapers would already have been attacking the probes for a while now. And I would assume you would not actually commit to a Sentry first. If a Reaper shows up, you'd probably go Stalker. But yeah, I'll give it to you. I go double battery. Ninja Doggy, you're making me want to leave this replay analysis and play you one more time right now, okay? You need to stop talking and let me do my analysis. Now you know what? I would rather gift 10 subs than get backseat analysis to the whole time. Shut your mouth. Back to my analysis. Okay, so we got your probes are protected from the standard Reaper. Nicely done. This build does work well against standard builds, as we can see. It's not taking any damage really. We see a robo as we leave. Robo first is, I like it. It's a fine build. It's just good for defensive purposes, honestly. You could use it aggressively, but you don't need to. It's not like in against Zerg, I would say this definitely needs to be aggressive, but against Terran, defensive robo is definitely just like a solid way to just be greedy and take a fast third, things like that. Get like Colossus out early or something. So, yeah, I like it. It's not bad. You're constantly pumping probes. You're spinning your chronos. Your probes are never gonna die because of the battery. Even when we pump it out with a grenade, it still just won't die. Battery is healing like a champ. Reaper actually dies. You're doing a good job of scouting with this, the Phoenix as well to see what build-up we're going for, and you're seeing a 3 command center opener with 3 racks behind it. So a response to a fast third base is a really good response to that. I love that you're actually going to go for a third before you add on any more gates. Like this one was made prior. But 2 gate into a third, I would do the same thing. I'm totally down with that because there's no way I can punish you like right now. And you're just chrono boosting your probes, constantly upkeeping your economy. So I'm on board with it. I'm on board with what you're serving here. You're serving up a good economy, and I like it. One thing that I would say is really important though, if you go robo first, if you're playing as hard as you can, one thing that is super important to go for is, I think with you know, I know this game you said ViBE you can't drop. ViBE you cannot drop me. Okay, so that's out of the question for this game specifically, but I would say I really am a fan of 1 chrono boost on the robo while you start making a robo bay, because what you can do is you can crank out 3 observers. And you can put 1 observer here. You can put 1 observer down here, and you can have 1 observer roaming with your army.
Keep the passion rolling. Best teacher in StarCraft.
Yo, Natural Billy, thank you very much for the 9-month resub. Much appreciated, dude. Thank you, thank you. Thanks, man. I think it's super important as well if you have vision as to where the Terran's going, because if the Terran is setting up a drop on this side, or a Liberator, or a Banshee, or especially if it's like a Widowmine drop, same thing on this side. That's super important to know, because what you're doing is you're taking 3 Nexus early with double gateway single robo. So you have minimal production with maximum economy to start the game off with. This is super greedy. This is how I play as well. This is greedy as fuck. And if you don't have vision nets around your base in some way, like either a pylon and a pylon, or at the least like I said, like an observer and an observer, if you get surprised by a drop in your base that just like out of nowhere comes in, or a Banshee or whatever, and suddenly you get pulled out of position because you only have a couple units, that sucks extremely hard. And every single time you mess that up as well. The whole point of greed is to get ahead in probes, but every time the probe count just drops, you kind of even out with your opponent. So I highly recommend going observer excessive when you go for a really fast third like this off of minimal production. Thank you, Hulk Smash.
ViBE versus Toxic Doggy round 2. Let's go.
It's all good. I would take a 4th gas before a 3rd, then I guess a 4th gas before a 3rd. No, you don't have to go for a 4th gas. So it depends what you're doing exactly, and if you are going to constantly be pumping out of the robo as fast as possible, then yes, I would 100% agree. 4th gas before 3rd is correct. That way you can make non-stop stalker robo production. However, if you scout something like this and you go, okay, well, my opponent is literally not having any means of early game going for factory or going for starport. There's like the tech is low. It's really, if I had to worry about anything, it would be a bio push that would like stim in my front door. I would say then what you might want to do is maybe just less priority into the gateways. Maybe even make a couple zealots if you have to. If you want to if you have excess money but no gas, Colossus with a couple zealot, just so you're constantly making something. If you want to prioritize that 3rd base faster, that's totally fine. Colossus definitely are the priority though. Against this, I would say Colossus would be a good priority, and if you want to even mix in a couple more sentries, that would be also super good, because the one thing that Colossus is weak to is someone who goes for a stim pack push with Marauder heavy, and you don't really have enough ground to cover that. If you have like 2 Colossus and like, you know, 10 gateway units, and that's it, and like only 1 sentry, and let's say you keep throwing hallucinated phoenixes out at me so you have no energy to actually force field, and I just run at you with like 8 marauders or like 10 marauders and like 16 marines, if I ever catch your Colossus, I can pop your Colossus super fast, and if your Colossus die, there's a good chance you might just get overpowered and die. So that's scary if you have no sentry as well. So I would say when you see this, taking the 3rd base super fast was nice. Optional, like I would say the observer thing I told you, that is less important now, because you saw no tech. But if you didn't get a perfect scout off, or if you did get a perfect scout off and there was tech involved, like there was 1-1-1 with 3 command center, you totally need those observers. Because it's so easy to throw the game if you're just like, oh, Hellions dropped them in my main. Widowmines dropped in my main, or my natural, or whatever. You just get destroyed. It definitely hurts a lot. So observers is just nice safety inside of your build if you see tech. But definitely Colossus should be the priority once your Robo Bay is done, for sure. But other than that, so far your build's fine. I think your build's overall pretty good up to this point. It's very greedy. I think you should definitely be chrono boosting your Nexus a bit faster though. And the reason why, here's what I would say. Chrono boosting on your Robo facility should be happening if you never saw the 3rd command center. You should definitely fucking chrono boost that Robo. But because you scouted the 3rd command center such a long time ago, you should have immediately reacted by going, cool, I can just chrono boost my Nexus literally nonstop until I have like 60 probes. Which would mean you'd be, if you were chrono boosting your probes nonstop, you'd probably have like 54 or like 52 to 54 done, but by the time the 3rd base is done, and then 1 chrono boost round when the 3rd's done, and you'd be at 60 plus probes within like 20 seconds of your 3rd base being done. It would be incredibly, incredibly fast. So see, your scouting's definitely been good. You've scouted a lot about what's going on. This also is, I don't disagree with this. This is not bad. This definitely has merit to it. You can definitely see what my composition looks like if I start walking in the front of the door. And again, I would say this kind of a maneuver, I agree with this if you already know what I'm doing. I disagree with this, though, if you don't know what I'm doing, and here's why. If you don't know that I have a 3rd, and if you don't know if I'm teching or not, this observer instead should be like right there. And you should be scouting me with this instead, right? But because you did confirm what I'm doing, I totally agree with the fact that you're now keeping tabs on what I'm doing further. Like you're watching to see, is he going to walk out of his base with a bunch of ground units? Is he going to, what's he doing essentially? What do the upgrades look like? Does he have 1-1 done? Whatever. Does a Marine over here have combat shield? Does he actually have a medevac yet? Like in the front of his base. So I think this is good as long as you know what I'm doing, because this observer is super important otherwise if you need to actually spot for shit around your base. Because again, the whole point of your build is greed, so you want to make sure you don't lose that by losing probes. That's the biggest part about the build of all. And then after you take your 3rd, you're going into double forge with the council. You're going charge first. I would say personally, again, you might be doing this because there was a no drop thing happening here, but I actually prefer blink first over charge. The reason why, the only time I would ever say, this is how I would personally do it as a Protoss. This is what I would do if I played against a Terran player who went for a 3rd command center and it was guaranteed, and they went for tanks behind it. I would say going charge would be okay. But you could also do this. You could also just go for disruptors and go for blink. The reason why overall I think blink is a better upgrade. I think blink is a better upgrade to get first overall because it makes it incredibly hard. Like I'm sure everyone that's Protoss who's like Masters Plus knows this. It makes it incredibly hard for the Terran to ever attack the Protoss. Like the Terran comes in the base with like a medevac, you blink at it, medevac's dead, it's gone. It makes like the medevacs have very low chance of retreat if you micro correctly, which is you don't burn your blink to get to the medevac. You burn your blink once you're in range of the medevac, so then you blink onto it and you kill it. So blink first is definitely, I think, a safer upgrade. Again, because what the point is, right? What's the point? You're not doing a timing, and you're not using this to counter a tank timing. So I think this upgrade covers your economy better. Charge does not cover the economy as well as blink does. Because again, what should be happening overall is if I attack you, let's say I don't even have a tank timing. Let's say I show up with just a bio timing with medevacs, whatever. All you gotta do, instead of charging forward and attacking me with that and hoping that, like, you know, when I'm stutter stepping backwards, you can like just overpower me, Instead, what I think you should do is you should back up into a battery range. You overcharge that battery, especially if you have like a guardian shield as well. You then roast my bio to the point to where I have to run away. And as I run away, you blink chase me down. And you punish my entire army as I try to leave. And you lose very little because you initiate with battery. It's a lot stronger, in my opinion, than going charge first. I think charge first only makes sense, seriously, if you go council first and you want to go for like a timing with charge lots. Like you want to be aggressive with it. Or if you literally scout in their base a tech lab factory and you know they're making tanks. Because you see a tank and you see a tech lab factory and you go, okay, tank timing is on its way. That's like the type of Terran that's going to make bunker, siege like 3 tanks with it. If you wanted to go charge first then, that would be okay. But here's the problem with that though, is it's this big problem, which is if you go robo first, your charge very likely won't be done in time anyways, unless you spam chrono. Because if you're going charge after third, that's a very delayed charge for a 2-base all-in Terran to like counter that. So charge, again, I feel like charge just doesn't really have the power to it as much as stalkers do, because again, I think I don't know how comfortable you are with disruptors, but I think disruptors are amazing against siege tank players. I fucking love disruptors against tank Terrans, especially if you mix them with stalker, because it's so easy to micromanage your units and then just blow up the army with a few disruptor shots. But either way, it's fine. I like the fact that UCI went for a third base. I would say, so here's the final piece of all of it, okay? The fact that UCI went for a third base, it's very unlikely that I'm going to be doing a timing before your upgrades are done on your council, like a big timing, because I'm delayed now because I also went for a third base. So you're probably going to have both of these upgrades done either way before we really fight. But again, I would personally, if I was a Protoss player, I would prefer Blink just because it would be easier to protect your economy. Because for instance, if I attack you here, and you have a bunch of charge lots and just a couple stalkers, and I load up my medevacs and I go around and I boost down and I go here and I unload here. I like carpet bomb my bio and I walk towards your council and kill it. The only way you can potentially protect your council is if you recall your army back in your main, because running up and around is never going to be in time. Whereas if you had Blink, you could like walk here, blink over the cliff, and pop my medevacs. There's so much more versatility to defensive play with Stalker Blink early. It's way harder as a Terran player also to break that. Like if I play a Terran if I play a Protoss who's got charge versus a Protoss who has Blink, I love my life when they have charge first. How did I like Age of Empires? Age of Empires is alright. It's alright. I don't love it, but it's alright. Alright, dude. So now you got Marauder, you got Bio, you saw a Liberator. That Observer, like I said before, for the situation you're in, this Observer is great. And it also spotted the Liberator, so that's why your Stalkers are up here now. That's super good. Taking a 4th base super aggressively. The location you're picking is actually, it's okay. It's okay. You're very centralized in like a little bit of a circle here. It's like an oval. So I think it's okay. It's very exposed, but you can always cancel it. I think it's actually the best bet you have though, because if you actually took it down here and I dropped way the hell over here, you're way more spread out, and not having Blink would fuck you there pretty hard. So I think this base is fine. I would say though, if you got Blink, you should definitely take the side of the map rather than the center of the map. That way you could have your Colossus standing like right here, and your Colossus could easily reinforce your natural or reinforce your 4th. And then your Stalkers, vice versa, could also blink towards the medevacs wherever they went if your army was centralized here. Okay, you're kind of missing your upgrades. I like it. Definitely playing pretty greedy. This was a bit brutal. So here's one thing I think you could do better. And this again kind of pairs, right? So remember how I was talking about the Observer thing? This is something you want to do. So like earlier we talked about Observer here. That's something you want to do every game, no matter what, once you get to the point where you feel like this, where you're like, okay, I'm no longer on just like 2 bases. Right around the time when you take like your forges and council, you want to do one of 2 things. If you can, If you have the ability to have multiple observers, you move your observers around to like spot areas. But if you kind of skipped the observer aspect of the game, 100% you should start adding in pylons. Like there should be a pylon like right there. There should be a pylon right there. There should be a pylon like right here or like right here. And there should be a pylon like right there. Or maybe like a pylon right here. Maybe even a pylon like right there. You should just start scattering a few pylons here and there. Like you don't have to have like a full net and a semicircle around the base. You just want to have a few important ones. Like one right here would be huge. Why would that be huge? Because if your army's going to stand right there, this is so exposed, which is why we just killed it. Why ViBE over here just killed it, because this has no defense at all, and you'll never make it in time if you're standing up there, and I just popped this base with Stimpak. So this is the kind of shit that will, against a Terran player who is going to be very conservative and like kill something, load up, go kill something, load up, and they just keep, they don't really go for a big fight. They just keep pressuring you and breaking you over and over and over. Same thing with like this over here. See how you have no vision in this area? What if a drop came down and while this hits you over here, what if this Liberator that's currently sieged right there, because you can see the circle of Liberator right here. There's a Liberator like right here. What if this Liberator sieges forward like right here and 2 medevacs follow it forward and like unload 4 Marauders and 8 Marines and they just start killing the Nexus? And then what if while you're defending this army comes back and this army that initially was attacking here, what if it goes back around and pops that base? So having a vision net is mandatory to not let yourself break from the multitask of what Terran does, and that is how Terran breaks you all the fucking time. They literally don't fight you, they just fight your economy, and they break your nexuses and your probes over and over. And suddenly you're like, well, shit. I'm now fighting like a 5-base Terran on like 2-base Protoss or 3-base Protoss because he literally just never fights me. He just harasses my economy and runs away. And you want to know what this is, why that happens to you? If you are a robo player, you will be punished by that. Any Terran player that knows how to play against robo will drop you all day. If you went Stargate, not the case anymore. If you had a bunch of like 5 Phoenix flying around, it's much harder for medevacs to just do whatever they want. But if you're a Protoss player that has literally no mobility defensively because you have no blink, and you also you have just Colossus, you're basically like, you're like that guy in like a medieval game that is like, you're like the big 2-handed slow heavy hitter where you're like, if they stand in the way, you just like slice them in half. But if they move at all, you just miss every time, and it's just like, ah, shit. Oh. So it, like, you need vision to know where you need to be before you need to be there. Because if the only vision you have is, oh, my Nexus is dead, well, your Nexus is going to die then. Like, it's going to die every time. So vision net is super, super, super important. Because like right now, for instance, imagine I loaded up these 2 medevacs and I went like this. Load up. So like half my bio runs to the left and runs away. And look what this bio could do, okay? This is seriously what could happen. 2 medevacs go in the, like, load up, go in the main, they drop here, and I kill this pylon right here. And I kill that pylon. And every one of your buildings is basically underpowered. Except for like the 1 gateway from this 1 pylon. On this whole block of gates. And the upgrades. And you don't have blink either still, which is a serious, that's scary. So then this drop doesn't even need to like kill your whole base. We're just talking about like killing a couple structures that fucks you over really bad. And I drag your army into your main base. And what happens with the other half of this army that does not go into the main base? What if it goes like this? And I go to this mineral line. And I just start popping, like I pop the pylon here and I pop your mineral line. Like that kind of shit could happen to you with mobility of Terran. So like that's where blink is also so important, because you can shut the shit down. But yeah, I mean, if the Terran takes a fight with you like that, right in your face, like it's gonna go well for you, because you have good upgrades, you have Guardian Shield, you have Colossus, you have a bunch of charge lots. I mean, things are going well. The only way Terran really beats an army like this is if Terran now has a combination of like a bunch of Widow Mines. Like Widow Mines wouldn't be that good either because you have Colossus and you have an Observer. But if Terran had like an addition of like a bunch of Vikings, that could be a serious problem for you because if you don't have a bunch of anti-air that can deal with Viking and your Colossus goes down, that's scary. If Terran also adds in maybe a couple of Ghost to EMP all the shields off of your army, that's scary. If Terran has Liberators, like let's say Terran had like 6 or 8 Liberators, and they just camp the Liberator zones in like a choke point, that is scary. All these things could be scary, but obviously we took a fight which like the Terran hero took a fight that is fucking terrible, and got ran over by Charge Lot Colossus. And then this is just the Perdos, essentially a move type thing going on here where you're literally pushing in with Charge Lot Colossus, which is it's definitely a good army. It's a good army, but this again, in a perfect world where your opponent can't attack you properly, it works, right? But as soon as your opponent knows how to drop and actually multi-prong your economy, this build, you'll never get to the point that you're at right now. You'll start starving more and more and more over time. Also, another thing I would say that would increase your build, you did get it, but I think you should actually have Storm by now. I think you should totally have, like, right around the time when you start 3/3 upgrades is when you should be starting your Storm as well. Also, you never got Blink. 100% get Blink in the future if you never get that. That is so important. But get Storm and mix that into your army as well, because your army right now, you're going to run into like I said before, you will run into problems with Terran players where if the Terran player is really good at harassing you, they will slow you down. It doesn't mean you're just dead at that point, but it does mean you're behind. And if you have Storm plus Colossus plus the rest of your gateway units, even if your supply is down by like 40 supply, you have a chance to come back in the game from there and actually manage to like come back essentially. But if you don't have Storm at all, the chances of you coming back if you're down by like 40, 50 supply is almost like 0. Like you will almost always just die there because Colossus only really work properly if you have equal or more supply than your opponent versus the Terran player, because Marauders are so ridiculously strong versus Colossus. Like you have to have enough things to cover the Colossus essentially. But if there's like enough Vikings out or something like that as well, like your army could just melt in seconds to the Terran player. But yeah, now at this point, this is just kind of the snowball effect, right? Where the Terran just dies. Also, what are you doing with the robo? So there's 2 ways you can play it out, in my opinion. Number 1 is if you get to this many Colossus, I think stopping at 4 Colossus is totally fine. But don't stop using the robo. Okay, good. You actually are using the robo again. You're making it immortal. I was going to say, make something else with it. So the fact that you're making it immortal, I love it. Like, you definitely shouldn't do nothing with it and wait for Colossus to die and then just be like, cool, we're done. You're also making more robos now. I think going to 2 robo is ideal. Going 3 robo is excessive. And the reason why is because I think 2 robo is nice to control mid game, but what you're doing with 3 robo is you're kind of almost, to like use it properly, you're almost like all-inning the fact that you're going to stay on robo all game. You're never going to get off robo. And if you play against a Terran player that transitions to starport units, like lots of Liberator, you'll never win staying on robo. Like, you will die. You basically put yourself in an all-in that will die. So I would say 2 robo would be better. And this 3rd robo, instead of a robo, should be a Stargate. And you should get ready to start switching into your own version of Sky Toss to help deal with what could fuck this build over, which is Sky Terran. Like, if I make 10 Liberators, what do you do against 10 Liberators if I also have a bunch of bio behind it? Like you would just walk into it and die. Like robo does not beat that anymore. It's like saying, what does Zerg do if Protoss has a bunch of roaches and, or sorry, if Protoss has like a, it'd be like, what does Zerg do if Protoss has like a bunch of Sky Toss and Zerg just has like roaches and like Ravagers? You just fucking die. You literally would just die. So Robotech is super good at controlling early game and getting you leads throughout the game in the early stages. But it's definitely not something you should try to always end the game on, in my opinion. Like, if you try to end the game around 10 minutes, that's totally fine. But going to 3 robo makes me feel like you'll never get off robo ever. Because you're going so deep in the robo department. This is lots of robo. Like, 2 is already a lot as it is as well. But yeah, overall, your idea is fine. I think there's a hole in your build though, which is base defense. The fact that you get blink at 12 minutes is very, very late. I think you definitely need to get blink way faster. And then you can also go charge too, but I think the fact that you delay blink so long is super scary for you. It's very scary. Because if the Terran player actually drops you, you will die. Like you'll versus it you'll realize versus a Terran player that actually does good drops, you will take damage like crazy. It'll feel like a complicated game, and you'll never be able to be as greedy as you want to be because you'll just be losing probes all day, and it'll feel like you're playing catch up all day. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this replay analysis with Mr. Ninja Doggy. But until the next one, have a great night, have a great day. I'll see you guys again in the next one. And yeah, take it easy, guys. Much love. Peace.